Why, oh why do poor white people vote against themselves time and time again? They vote for Trump and the other MAGA politicians only to have every promise broken, prices go up, social supports evaporate. Here's why. First, remember what I talked about recently, the psychological wage of whiteness. That term was coined by W.E. Du Bois to describe poor white folks being paid with social status rather than decent living conditions. They're convinced by the elites that they're better than black folks, better than immigrants, Latinos, LGBTQ folks. They're convinced that being white puts them in the same league as the elites. Of course, the elites know otherwise, but the poor whites buy it because they're grasping at straws. Second, they are convinced that the people they're supposedly better than are the big threat in their lives. Not the rich, not the corporations or the politicians, but immigrants, black folks, welfare queens, LGBTQ, criminals, you know, the usual scapegoats. Third, the elites promise protection to poor white folks. A politician comes along and says, I'll keep those people in their place, or I'll kick them out, or I'll lock them up. Or, more politely, I'll defend your values. They don't say, I'll make your life better. Well, they say it, they just don't mean it. They'll say, I'll make sure they don't get ahead of you. Fourth, they vote for the punishment, not the policy. When a law gets passed that slashes public housing or school funding or food aid, they think, good, that'll stop those lazy freeloaders. And they do some mental gymnastics that make them believe it's worth losing those things for their own families in order to see those problematic black people and immigrants and so forth being punished. It gets to a point where just seeing those guys being punished is reward enough, which is pretty sick, but that's how behavior works. Their housing, schools, and groceries are on the chopping block too, but they blame that on Biden. Always a scapegoat. They get hit by the same policies they were told would punish the others, and they blame the wrong people. The system fails them, but they've been trained to blame the scapegoats, not the cause, which is the rich people, the people they voted for. So they think the problem is still those people, not the fact that they were personally manipulated by the people they voted for. They're basically saying, I'll take the hit as long as you don't help them, or worse, as long as you hurt them. That is the psychological wage Du Bois was talking about, the trade-off between material security for racial status. And that's a crying shame, folks. One share, like, save, and comment shows that you care about white people taking responsibility for racism in America. This work is important to me, and I want to keep doing it. If you want to support me, consider a donation of any size to coffee.com/Kelly Snyder. And yeah, spelling is important. Get curious.
There's a whole lot of white people who are now upset that they voted for Trump. So I just want to point out this lesson and thing we do in the black community where we say, oh, skin folk and kin folk. Y'all voted for that man because he's white and you didn't want to see a black woman become the president. And now you see all skin folk ain't kin folk. I don't feel sorry for y'all at all.
Hi, this is for the people that voted for Donald Trump. So if you did not vote for Donald Trump, just keep scrolling. And I'm about to ask a legitimate question. Like, I'm not gonna be sarcastic. I'm not being mean. Like, this is a real question for people who voted for him. I personally thought that Donald Trump ran his campaign on peace and he was going to not make any more wars happen or any type of bombing. So with him conducting this strike in Iran, I feel like that goes against what he campaigned for. But I want to hear from the people who voted for him. Are you in support of him bombing Iran? And if yes, why? I'm curious, because how does that put America first? Because I'm just curious. I'm asking real questions here, and I'm giving you guys a place to answer, because We need to have these conversations, because when we're talking about regime change and like everything outside of America, it feels like we're doing nothing in America to help America get great again.
I'm so surprised how many people didn't know that with the DEI rollbacks, that meant that like there would also be rollbacks for specifically women. I don't know what y'all thought. What, you thought, first of all, you thought these men respected us? What, just because you're like a white woman? And I get, like, I'm a white woman, right? But like most political progress for women has come at the hands of women of color. Not to say that there haven't been prominent white women, but like when they're talking about like diversity in the workforce, they're talking about you. And now they're talking about like getting rid of things like Black History Month and Women's History Month. And all the white women are suddenly like, what? This applies to us? I don't know if you know this, but they view you as someone they can oppress. It's like, I don't know why we're surprised. This also means that like it opens the door for them to allow for things like for you to be fired if you're pregnant, for them to take away more things like maternity leave and stuff like that. Y'all need to stop associating DEI with just Black people or other people of color.
I didn't care how things were affecting others until it affected me. Am I proud of that? No. We live in a very cruel world, and sometimes the only way to survive is by being selfish. We are all just out here trying to survive as best we can. And although we may have good intentions and we may be empathetic and we may be compassionate, we will always put ourselves first because we have to survive. And if that means making a mistake in my vote or maybe putting my trust in the wrong person like I did, then that's what it means. I will always put the betterment of my family and vote in ways that I think will help my family above anyone else.
Here's the problem with voting for your self-interest. I understand Maslow's hierarchy of needs. When you're on the bottom and none of your needs are fulfilled, you can only think of yourself. But here's the problem with that, is you voted for your self-interest. So did everybody else in the Republican Party. Think about that for a minute. You voted for your self-interest, but you don't have anything. Like, you don't have anything. Like, that's what it is. But other people, rich people, they have a lot. So of course they're going to vote for their self-interest because they have something. You don't. You need the tribe, right? The socialized healthcare, the socialized dental care, schools, firefighters, police officers, all socialized systems. Is it clicking yet? You voted against the tribe. You know, humans didn't make it on their own. We always existed in a tribe, taking care of each other. You could only take care of yourself if you have something. And you don't have shit.
To all the self-hating Latinos that are so proud that they voted for this, constantly commenting under all my posts saying, great, we voted for this, and saying my family did it the legal way, so everyone else needs to as well. First of all, that's not pride, that's privilege, and it's being weaponized. Your family may have come here when the system actually let people in, when quotas were different, when the rules were clear, but now the legal way doesn't even exist for most people. The system is broken on purpose. It's designed to keep people out. Brown people, poor people, our people. You say you voted for this because of law and order, but what law and order tells armed men to chase down people who are just trying to survive? And now due process is being systematically dismantled. They're not just going after criminals, they're going after families. So when you say, great, we voted for this, and you're happy about it, you're not defending your culture. You're defending the people who are erasing it. You can have pride in your roots without turning your back on the people that are still trying to grow theirs. We need to stop siding with the oppressor just because we got lucky. Because next time, you might be the one that they're coming for.
This is just my opinion, but I feel like a lot of POCs who voted for Trump, they just knew that their situation was not going to change. Whether it was Biden, Harris, or Trump, it was going to be mass deportation. There's still going to be conflict in the Middle East. But I think the real reason why they voted for Trump is because they didn't want to see Black people succeed. Again, this is just my opinion. They knew that their situation was not going to change no matter who the president was, but they felt like our situation would change if we had Harris. And I think a lot of them felt like no matter who they voted for, they were going to be voting against their rights. But if they could take Black people down with them, they might as well vote for the Trump. where both of us are going to be feeling the repercussions of it. Because they believe if they voted for Harris, just they will be feeling the repercussions of it. But now that Trump is in office and he virtually has not said anything about black people, they're pissed. Yes, they cut DEIs. And they was like, yay, what are black people going to do? And then they found out that the biggest recipients of DEI are white women. They threatened to cut food stamps, WIC, and Section 8. They were all happy because, oh my God, what are black people going to do? Again, they realized that we are not the biggest recipients of that. And now they're mad because a vote for him was a vote against us. And we're not being affected like they are, and they are upset about it. That's why it's all these videos trying to bait us into outrage or bait us into activism, because now they need us to work for them, even though they got in that booth and they actively voted against us. Now they're trying to fearmonger us with their fantasies, like she wants us to go back out in that field. That's why I made this video, because I want black people to stay on code. Don't be mad. Don't make 50 videos yelling at the camera about how she's wrong. Laugh at that shit and keep moving. Ha ha ha. Not ha ha at their situation, because nobody wants to laugh at people being deported. But laugh at the fact that they're trying to get under our skins and they cannot.
As farm workers, asking Trump to spare their staff and their farm workers from these mass deportations. Nearly 2 million of the farm workers don't have status, and they're afraid that there's going to affect the food supply chain. I mean, I'm afraid about that too. Okay, between all the tariffs and the mass deportations, the price of all the food we eat is going to skyrocket. You thought inflation was bad. This is going to be worse. So anyway, it's good to hear that they're banding together, asking Trump to spare, but it's not just them that need to be spared. This is according to a Reuters article just recently. My name is Ruby Powers, your go-to immigration attorney.
So my husband and I, we were driving home the other day. I was driving, he was sitting in the passenger seat. And he asked me a question. God bless him. Whoops, that's how it starts every time. He was scrolling on his phone. I'm just driving, jamming to my music. And he looks over and he says, oh, what's your take? What do you think on these former Trump supporters coming out and making these videos on this app in particular, saying they regret their vote? And friends, when I tell you that I just had to do a sideways, because I'm driving, right? One sideways look, and he went, oh no. That's like, how much time do you have? Clearly, okay, he wanted to know my take, and now you get to know my take. I did my rant, and I said, I think I should share that one. And he was like, God help us. Like, yeah, we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about it. How do I feel about these Trump supporters, former Trump supporters that are coming out and making these videos saying they regret their vote? Okay. Clearly, we need to talk about the concept of martyrdom in Christianity, and how martyrdom is trained into us early and often, particularly women. And most of the videos I have seen have been women. Maybe that's just my algorithm. Maybe I'm crazy, but most of them have been women coming out and saying they regret their vote. Martyrdom is saint-like. Martyrdom is Christ-like. Martyrdom, ooh, it feels good. And so this is the issue that I have. The only person that gets to feel good about a former Trump supporter coming out and saying, I regret my vote. The only person that gets any kind of peace, sense of forgiveness, sense of moving on, sense of edification, sense of having suffered and now they are forgiven, is the person who made that video, right? The people in the comments rail against them. We don't care. We don't accept your apology, blah, blah, blah. Like the comments just flood of people letting them have it. That's what they want, because they are martyring themselves, making this video. But here's the thing. The energy on the internet, the memory of the internet only lasts about 3 to 7 days if you're lucky, okay? So they make these videos and they get hammered. They get hammered for about 3 to 7 days. But then they fade away because that's what this app in particular, that's what the internet does, any kind of outrage about anything. You notice how we're already not talking about how a former House rep for Minnesota was assassinated? It happened too many fucking days ago. We've stopped talking about it. So these people get to come out. That was a Trump supporter, by the way, that did those heinous acts of violence, right? So these former Trump supporters get to come out. They get to have their 3-minute video where they act so contrite. They act so contrite. They act so penitent. And they say, I regret my vote. And I know you'll hate me for it, right? They're teeing it up. I know I'll get a lot of hate for this. They want it. They crave it. It fits the martyr narrative. And then they get to forgive themselves because they suffered as Christ suffers, right? They suffered the 3 to 7 days of internet shaming, right? But then it's over. So my question is to every single person that makes a I voted for Trump and now I regret my vote video is, what are you doing outside of this video, right? Have you divested yourself from family like we have? Have you gone to the marches? Are you re-registering yourself to vote Democrats? Are you participating in campaigns? Have you gone to a single school board meeting? What are you doing? What does your actual activism look like to turn this tide away from authoritarianism? Because this video that you're doing, right? Your contrition martyrdom video, that's just for you. That's not for us. That's not for us. That's not for anyone in the comments that gets to feel 2.4 seconds of relief that they let you have it. It's not for us. It's for you to feel better. What are you actually doing to fucking fix what you fucking broke? That's my question. That's my question. Answer that question after you make your shitty fucking video where you get to feel better and you get to feel forgiven. All right? We don't forgive you. We will remember. What are you doing? What are you doing? Answer that question.
Hi guys, welcome back once again to my YouTube channel. I'm B-Boy. Remember, if it was for the first time you're coming across my video, don't forget to like this video, subscribe and share. Okay guys, in today's clip is all about the manga white farmers who voted out of their own interest and they're really crying out for help. They have really came out crying and regretting their votes. Why did they vote for maybe President Donald Trump? Because a lot of white farmers or a lot of white people voted against or voted out of hatred and out of racism because they thought if they vote for President Donald Trump, he could do a lot of change, he could make America great again. But right now, they are online making videos of how they are regretting of how life it has become so difficult, of how they can't be able even to afford basic need. It's because of the current government. The current government, it has been so hard for these people. This is the reason why they are experiencing this, and they are really crying out for help. They really hope they did or they voted for the right person, but now it's too late. There's no anyone to cry for. They really did a mistake, and there's no way they can maybe take maybe President Donald Trump out of the office. And this is the reason or the consequences of putting the wrong person in an office. We have all seen how these white farmers, they are going bankrupt. Imagine these people, they voted for deportation or for deportation of all legal immigrants, for deportation of all people. They didn't think that these people are the same people who are really working for them. They are the same people who are making the economy of United States to grow better. These are the same people who are depending on them to go and work on their farms. These are the same people who are providing, or they have also their family that are depending on them. They voted out of hatred, they voted out of racism because they all wanted black people to maybe to get away from the United States. But what is karma? Who is God? We have all seen these things. They are really hitting them very hardly, and they are now regretting. They are now saying they really wish they knew, but it's too late. Black people, they have just came out. They are saying these things. They have experienced them. Black people, they have experienced the same oppression, the same things they are going through. Now they're just sitting there relaxing and saying them enjoy what you did for or enjoy what you voted for. And we have all seen how United States, the economy, it has really changed, because this is the number one country, this is the first country in the world, this is the country whereby it's a dreamland of a lot of people outside or across all over the country, because a lot of people really admire to go to United States. And now, as things they have really changed, that there is a lot of people who are even now regretting, the same white people, they are warning people not to visit United States because of how life it has been so expensive, because of how things they have just risen up, the cost of living has risen up, and the people they have started wondering what they did to serve this. But they are the same people who are MAGA supporters who are voting for really Trump. They were the same people who really supported Trump until the end, but now Trump is just doing what he promised. He's doing all his agendas that he promised. But this way, people, because of how maybe voting out of hatred, voting out of racism, they didn't thought that this rule could also affect them. They just thought that it will affect all the illegal immigrants, and more so especially it will affect a lot of black people. But right now, the black people are the one who are just looking at them smiling and wondering what they did for themselves, because they voted against their own benefit. And what I really know is that a lot of people, they have said, and now they have really learned that whenever the next coming president, whenever he comes, or maybe he try to vie for a seat, they will do what is right. They will do what is right for both of people. They won't again do the same mistake. They won't again vote against their own interests, or they won't vote against racism, because all the things that voted for them, it's really affecting both, whether you are white, whether you are black. We've all seen how the Latinos, they are really crying out. And do you remember the Latinos are the one who were so happy when President Donald Trump became the president of America? They were so happy, they thought that Trump could favor them a lot. But right now, we have all seen a lot of Latino being deported from the United States. They are being separated from their family. They're really crying out for help, calling Trump how he's a bad leader, how he's separating children from their families, how he's making maybe people to disappear, how it's just maybe ain't favoring other people. But whenever they were electing or they were voting for them, they really came out in large number and they voted for President Donald Trump. Even the Mexican, even everyone who voted for President Trump, they are now regretting what they did. But it's just the same mistakes, and that's now this is the reason why white people could learn, so that they won't repeat the same mistake again. Because if you vote against hatred, if you vote against your own interest, if you vote against racism, what did you expect? God really knows how to punish people. God is a God who is alive. You really know, if you do things against for your bad people, it will just come and hit you back. We have all seen how a lot of white people that are bankrupt, how they have came out crying, how they don't have money, how they don't know how they will go on with this harsh economy, how they don't know how they will raise their children. But they are the same people who voted for President Donald Trump, how the food will rot in their farms. And they are the same people who voted for deportation, how they will milk their cow. And they are the same people who voted for all the illegal people to be deported. Now they are really crying out for help. Those people are being separated from their family. How now are you feeling people crying out for help, being separated from their own family, and now the economy has been harsh? So guys, let us pray and let us hope things could be better. And if it was the first time you're coming across my video, don't forget to like this video, subscribe and share. Thank you so much for your time. May God bless you whenever you are. One love.